Welcome to Frankie the Podcast, the companion podcast to the trans visibility animated film Frankie the Magicorn. This first batch of podcasts will consist of interviews with a number of trans individuals who want to share their stories and contribute to the project. Today's guest is Endy Rose.
Hello?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going. Is this Endy?
It sure is.
How do you pronounce that? I'm sorry.
Endy, E-N-D-Y.
E-N-D-Y. Cool.
It's, wow.
Tell me this whole thing, please. Yes.
Okay. Really?
Well, yeah.
It's actually my old initials.
Oh, really?
N-D. I wanted to keep something of myself going forward.
Aw.
Something of myself. So there you go.
Cool.
And it's kind of Facebook's fault anyways.
Oh, why?
There was that period of time where people were doing their initials and phoneticizing them and then putting it on Facebook, like D-A and then their last name and whatever it was. Yeah, so I did ND and then my last name. And of course, I'm a year and a half into transition at this point. So everyone's like, that's your name, isn't it? I'm like, no, that's not. Yeah, I guess so. Damn it.
Well,
So there you go.
I don't know, maybe another name will speak to you in greater volume later.
We'll see. I'm not really worried about it. It works okay.
Yeah, I wasn't Sketch until I was 13, is what I'll say to that.
Really?
Yeah. My parents didn't name me Sketch. They weren't that cool.
You never know.
Yeah.
I try not to judge.
Yeah. My last interview was raised by hippies, so you never know. Some parents...
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She said... they... Damn it, Sketch. They said that
it's okay.
They said that they acknowledge how easy they had it. Hashtag hippie privilege.
Oh, okay.
So
that's an interesting thing.
Anyway, right off the bat, let me just check the levels. Hey, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Endy Workman. I'm a part-time ninja and full-time server admin. Periodically, I do automation.
You do automation or animation?
Automation.
Oh, awesome. First question, of course, name, pronouns. How would you describe your career or your dream aspirations? Let's get to know you first.
Okay. Well, you've got my name. Pronouns are she, her. And my career currently, I work as I'm a senior DevOps systems administrator officially. Honestly, I would like to move I need to specialize at some point, and it's kind of at that decision point. So I'm debating, do I want to be a hacker? Do I want to go deeper into security? Kind of making that decision at this point. So I'm not dead certain where I want to go, but I'll figure it out.
Cool. What setup are you using? Are you talking on a phone?
I'm talking on a phone. Is that okay?
No, that's perfectly fine.
Is it not enough? I'm sorry.
Okay. No. You sound great. That's why I asked.
Oh, okay.
I kind of thought that you were on a microphone. That's why. Phones are amazing these days. Also, I don't know. I'm an animator. I haven't really had to do interviews before. I just drew things. But
that's really cool. I used to draw. Never mind. I'm not going to tell you.
No, do not.
Then people I hated it when people. Never mind. I used to do foreign language translation for 21 years. I was in the U.S. Navy for 21 years. Retired as a Navy chief.
Wow.
And did foreign language translation for pretty much all of that. Surface, subsurface, air platform. Spent some time in Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. So.
I'll just lead off by saying we're all trained to believe that we're not supposed to think we're interesting, or that what we do isn't interesting. But this interview is about you, so everything's interesting. All right.
Okay.
I'm just going to try to dial back being my usual loquacious self and jumping into conversations because I'm told I can be a lot. So my apologies in advance.
It's okay.
Let's see. Dream aspirations. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, may I ask, it's a bit rude, but may I ask your age?
45.
Nice.
Yep, I'm ancient. Sorry.
No, I'm 40 myself, and I married a 44-year-old, so please don't say that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
Also,
I was made to feel like the crypt keeper the other day at work. I mean, literally yesterday. One of the young developers was like, "Oh yeah, my mom is 45," and I'm like, I just wanted to like slink into my desk and fall through the floor or something. Like, damn it.
oh, that wasn't on fleek at all. Like, nor was it off the hook.
No, not so much.
Dab. Let's see.
I had to floss my way out of there. It was crazy.
Did I ever tell you kids about when the MTV used to play music?
Yeah, exactly. Back in the good old days, when uphill both ways in the snow. It's what we do.
There you go. Yeah, I try not to. I unfortunately I do a lot of old person dad jokes to my students when I teach.
I used to do a decent Grandpa Simpson.
You used to do what?
I said I used to do a decent Grandpa Simpson impression. Hello. No. Haven't played with that in a while. Give me a little while, and we'll get back to that. We'll revisit that.
I almost blew my throat out last night doing some Dr. Claw. Let's see. Inspector
I'll get you, gadgets.
Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah. That falls stupid human tricks. These are things we do.
These are things we do. Well, it is a pleasure to know you, Endy. Hobbies. What do you do? How do you unwind?
Most of the time, I play Overwatch very, very badly. I am an incredible bullet sponge, especially when I play healers. It's fantastic. Guaranteed to catch every projectile with my face. Aside from that, I have a motorcycle. I like to ride every now and then. And I've got a cat that I like to torture when she's not trying to torture me.
Aww.
So, it's a symbiotic relationship. So she begs for food and then she doesn't eat it. I don't get it. If I beg for food, I usually want it. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
But aside from that, not much else. Some other video games. What's the last thing I played? XCOM 2.
Cool.
But yeah, my son's.
This isn't relevant. I'm just curious because I'm not big into video games, but I like what I like.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some other games you love?
Oh, geez. I like the new BattleTech game that came out. Mm-hmm. They just pushed out. Harebrained Schemes, I think. Mm-hmm. Every now and then, Warcraft. I'll come around for the new expansion, find out that it sucks, and then stop playing it again. And you know how it goes.
Who is your favorite? I think the term is toon from your experience.
From which experience?
From Warcraft. Like I think people use the term toon to describe character.
Oh.
I don't know.
I've been playing a hunter since before launch. So yeah, I'm one of those huntards that pull I actually have done that. I've pulled an entire dungeon by myself because I'm special. And sometimes I don't look before I leap. So yeah,
I
like hunters.
Leroy Jenkins.
I am Leroy Jenkins in the skirt. So at least I got chicken.
There you go. What was your childhood like? How did your identity shape during that time?
Okay.
And again, you don't have to answer any question. If something's weird, just say,
no.
Pass. Let's go on.
No, it's okay. I mean, early on, I was informed of the difference between boys and girls and tried to resolve that myself. And unfortunately, that's obviously not the way you go about it. My parents were, of course, you're a boy, so you're going to do boy things. And someday you're going to grow up and make us proud, be a doctor, lawyer, preacher, something like that. So I learned pretty early to just suppress it and do my best to try to be a boy. It's kind of like when everybody else has, let me think. Everybody else has instructions for what they're supposed to do for the day, and you've got nothing. You're going, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing here. I'm really not sure. And just trying to follow along with everybody else by watching them do it. That's what it feels like. But I would always say I've always felt, well, prior to transition, I'd always felt a little bit out of sorts. And my parents, I love them to death. They were very, very, very conservative. So it was one of those things that didn't necessarily go over well afterwards either, 40 years later. But I felt like a person who had to pretend to be a boy for the rest of her life. You don't know how depressing that is. I mean that sounds bad. I'm sorry.
No, I fully acknowledge my place of cis privilege. I have no idea what that's like, and I'm sorry. Please continue.
No, it's okay. It's not a cis privilege thing. Well, it's just a. So yeah, I mean, it got really confusing once you got to puberty. Now all of a sudden you've got tons of hormones, and your default settings are anger and sex. And you're like, wow, okay, is this normal? Is that normal? I don't actually know.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, all right.
I mean,
so that's
and whenever somebody, I'm sorry, I don't need to tell you so, but I mean, like, yeah, that's a classic teenage boy experience. Watch that show Big Mouth on Netflix, and also I've heard from a few trans men that's kind of what the 3 H's.
The 3 H's?
Yeah, for people undergoing T treatment, the 3 H's.
Gotcha.
They're constantly either physically hot, horny, or hungry.
Yep. Knew it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so it was terribly confusing. I thought most of the guys I was friends with were perverts. I was pretty sure that was true. I know. I'm sorry.
We all are.
I didn't.
Sorry, please continue.
No, it's not a bad.
This is your story. I'm interrupting you. Please continue.
It's it's fun with the back and forth.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, I mean, so it was really confusing with that. And years later, it's been 30 years since then. I've got all this testosterone out of my system, and I feel like I can finally think clearly again for the first time in a really long time, and it feels freaking awesome. So I know, hard to explain.
No, I've never been able to think straight myself.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I mean, so instead of going from sex and anger, a lot of things just converts over to, some form of tears.
Yeah.
If I'm angry, tears. Sad, tears. Hungry, sometimes tears if I don't get fed. But it's interesting.
So with that, what were some heteronormative activities or actions that your family, school, society tried to put on you, get you into that you were not into?
Honestly, I tried to follow the script. I wanted to make my parents proud. It's one of those things. So dad and mom were always about getting a girlfriend and getting a job. And I did track and cross country all through, middle and high school. Just trying in some way, shape, or form to be, that son they wanted. And I tried. And when I joined the military, I thought, when I left high school, I was about to leave high school, and I realized, I'm not ready for college, and I don't want to be that kid that works at the Quickie Mart. So I'm going to go join the military. And Dad was like, yeah, it's great. It'll turn you into a man. I'm like, okay, that's an interesting perspective. Thanks. Appreciate that. Interestingly enough, it did not. So I'm kind of disappointed. That's like false advertising.
Well, Lon lied to us. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, no, it's and then at that point, but one thing I do remember very clearly about doing anything guyish is that it's very that particular gender role is incredibly restricting in a lot of regards. There's a lot of restrictions on how to guy properly. You go to an office and you look at women's fashion. Yeah. They'll wear everything under the sun. We really do. Guys are almost uniformly in, if it's business casual, khakis or some other form of slacks, not jeans, a button down, maybe a tie, sometimes a blazer.
Yeah.
Just depends.
What should I wear to this event? The black suit or the other one?
Exactly. Yeah, I've literally made myself late for work as of in my current job, trying to figure out what to wear. Sounds silly, but it happens.
No, it doesn't sound silly. That's life.
Yeah, it really is.
That's what I'm told. That's what the comedians tell me women be like.
Yeah, it's yeah. Maybe I just need I should have held on to that whole Old Navy thing when I retired, and just 5 black suits and 5 white button downs, and just switched them out every day and called it good. I know, terrible, right?
No, well, fashion's an opinion thing.
Yeah, I blow so much money on clothes, it's not funny. I'm like, wow, this looks really cute. Let's wear it. And I'll wear it once. I'll be like, you know what? I really didn't like that.
Well, I mean,
You
you've only
loved it.
been transitioning for a year. It's your time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's been 4 years at this point, so it's no, it's okay. Yeah, well, yeah, and that's one of those things you don't expect. Nothing fits when you start. I mean, nothing. The clothes don't fit properly. It's constantly annoying. Now at this point, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, women say that for everything in general too, or like,
yeah, well, yeah,
even like it's. I mean, yeah, it's at the beginning of your transition. Also, cis women have that issue as well, and especially women of the Lane Bryant weight range. Oh God, sorry. I'm always second guessing what I'm saying because I know I'm a product of my time, and I know it's going to sound horrible in 10 years. I'm sorry.
Well, if you're not planning on running for president, you should be okay. Other than that, well,
there are too many pictures of me from Rocky Horror for that to ever happen. Anyway,
fair enough.
Also, on that note, my apologies in advance. One of my last questions is, what's everybody's opinion on drag? And yeah, we'll get to that later. Yeah.
Sure. Did you want to talk about drag?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah. God, where was I? Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I derailed you. Fashion.
It's okay.
4 years of fashion.
Yeah, 4 years of fashion and trying things that don't fit and realizing that the same size and a different designer doesn't fit at all. You know, it could be totally different sizes. A size 11 shoe isn't always a size 11 shoe. Sometimes it's just a lie. It's like vaporware. Oh. So, but yeah, so I tried on, like, I went home back to Atlanta to visit the family. And I was like, ooh, here's some of my old clothes. I'm like, let's try these on. I'm like, huh, it doesn't fit right. It's funny and fitting, and I love it. So,
when was this?
Earlier this year.
Okay, so
right
after you'd been transitioned for over 3 years.
Oh, yeah. My father died in July. I went back then.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It was dementia. We knew it was coming. And Mom had died 2 years before that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That one was kind of a blessing at the state she was in. Trust me.
I'm still sorry.
Yeah. And now on the upside, you know, the last words I get to remember from her is she called me an abomination and told me I wasn't her child. And that could have been the dementia, though. I mean, that's always a possibility. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
That's what I like. My more charitable moments.
So, who were some characters/celebrities that you wanted to be like when you grew up? Someone you saw in movies and TV and thought, I want to be that person.
Oh, wow. From when? Oh, God.
Oh, whenever. Like something that, like someone that, like, that helped kind of maybe you wanted to incorporate into your eventual self-identity, I guess would be one way to say.
Yeah, because I mean, if you asked me when I was 6, I would have said, you know, Princess from Gatchaman or Battle of the Planets. That's where I would have been. Or Wonder Woman or something like that. You don't say that very loudly, though, in elementary school. Bad things happen. Let's see. Who did I really like? Andie MacDowell in the 90s. I always thought she was funny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought she was incredibly amusing and funny. And I loved her hair.
That's true. Did you see Hudson Hawk?
I love Hudson Hawk.
I love Hudson Hawk. And, okay, I'll say I'm not a huge fan of Andie MacDowell, but I do love her in Hudson Hawk. Yes,
or in Multiplicity, or what's it called? Oh God, Groundhog Day.
She is cute and like adorable in Groundhog Day.
Right. I mean, she's not like drop dead gorgeous or anything, but neither am I. So this is okay.
Okay, I will say one thing I have against Andie MacDowell, and this doesn't relate to anything. There was this movie, I want to say it was called The Gift or the something. It's like her, or it's something about a theft. It's her and John Malkovich.
Yeah. No, I haven't, but I have seen previews for it at some point in my life.
All right. I'm sure it's great. There's just this one little scene that bugged me. Like, they're in a hotel. Malkovich is in a robe, and he's talking to like the busboy or something like that, who's there trying to, and they're having that couple confusion session, like not an argument, but they were like, where's the wallet? No, the one with that card, blah blah blah. And then like she's in the shower and she's like, oh well, F this, and she and an obvious body double walks nude through the room in front of them both. It's like, fine, no, I'm just gonna get it. And then Andy McDowell in a sheet comes out from back around the corner holding out the wallet or whatever. and the guy Spade, and he leaves, and Malkovich says, what was that? Or I don't do a good impression yet. And she says, what? The human body is a beautiful thing. And I'm sitting there going, you just used a body double. Anyway,
yeah, but
it's not like I had to see her naked body. You could, accomplish. She could have done it with like rear view cameras from the waist up, and But I'm just saying.
Yeah, I agree. That's funny, actually. But yeah, I mean, stunt doubles' bodies are beautiful things.
They are. Like, well, no. Anyway, I was going to mention that bit in Game of Thrones, but that scene was horrible and sad.
All right, you're going to hate me for this, but I have never actually seen Game of Thrones.
That's fine.
I know all the themes.
It's not for everybody.
Well, I've been told to give it another go, but I actually have not a meeting, not a date. I'm going over to a girlfriend's house in a couple, like next week, and we're just going before the news and just start scrolling from the beginning with all of them again.
Okay,
can't be that bad.
I kind of, and if I might go on another rant, I don't think you shouldn't have to watch a show.
Oh no!
Like, I mean, people try to push shows on folks, and I'm like, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Like,
look, it's not either. So.
Yeah, it's the golden age of television. There's a jillion great shows out there.
Oh my God, it's great.
I can skip freaking Black Mirror, freaking sociopath of a show.
What?
Anyway,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's a great show.
Okay, I'm just saying, if you lead off on your first episode with the Prime Minister getting sexually assaulted with a pig, I'm like, F you, show. I'm going to go watch the new Twilight Zone.
Him getting assaulted, or was it the pig getting assaulted?
They both were getting assaulted. A criminal
felonious conduct with bacon.
A horrible person was holding a gun to both of their heads.
Uh-huh.
I'm just saying.
It does happen. Oh, Lord.
Okay, I'm sorry about all that.
No, it's okay. It's great. No, this is really a great era of TV, and there's almost more on to watch than I can even manage to sort through for the most part.
Oh God, no!
I got stuck on AP Bio lately, of all things.
Really?
Yes.
How have you been enjoying that?
I actually, I really like that. After what was it? Episode 2 of the first season, there was I think it was episode 2, dealing with Jack's murderous rage, where he talks about killing the possums. I actually laughed out loud. I was like, that doesn't happen very often. So
cool.
I think I'm watching this. He's snarky. He's funny. He sabotages himself. I'm like, wow. It's amusing. It's great to watch.
Hey, love that Patton Oswalt too.
Yes, you never go wrong with him.
Character celebrities. Who'd you want to be when you grow up? Okay.
I wanted to be an astronaut. Duh.
Really?
I did. Well, that wasn't the only thing, but yes.
Cool. Like, how far did you research astronaut?
I researched a lot. I actually thought about following it after I got out of the service, but I was really physically kind of broken at that point. I also looked at being a Secret Service agent. Don't ask.
Okay.
I thought that'd be fun. I probably, that's probably one of those things that nobody ever puts. It's an adjective that's never used in conjunction with Secret Service. Is fun. Now that I think about it.
Did he work on the counterfeiting division or something? Which is what I'm told the Secret Service was founded for.
Yeah, that'd be great. That is what they were founded for the most.
They just fell into protecting the president. I don't know.
After Lincoln, yes.
Oh, right. Thank you.
Yep. But NASA looked like fun. You can still go up when you're older as a mission specialist, but let's be honest, courtesy of the U.S. Navy, I've got more than a few medical issues.
Oh.
Just like torn rotator cuffs.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I was going to ask.
Bad back, or like degeneration from L1 to S3, they said. I don't know if that's bad. Touch of sleep apnea. I'm missing a bunch of things. anyways, but just we can leave it at that. And then a healthy dose of gender dysphoria, which, actually is pretty good at the moment.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, the more you I've been living this life full time for 4 years now. And it was hard at first because I thought, I remember the first time my therapist said, hey, wear some gendered clothing to the session. And I thought, the sky's going to open up, lightning's going to drop down and turn me into a little toasty cinder. And when it didn't, I was horribly surprised. And then I saw people at the ATM and I was like, oh God, they're going to stone me to death. No, that didn't happen either. They pretty much didn't care. So, it was, a lot of it's just about just being comfortable and being you and being okay with that, because we repress ourselves like crazy. And people do that enough as it is. We tell ourselves we aren't going to be good enough. We're not good enough. We're not smart enough. We're not fast enough. We're not beautiful enough. We're not handsome enough. We don't make enough money. You name it. We find a million different ways to disparage ourselves. And when you feel like you look like a dude in a skirt, you're like, fuck, I am just like the entirely wrong person for this. Why am I even bothering to try to fix this? But you do. And the coolest part about the estrogen is the first thing it fixes is your head.
Oh,
so
yeah?
That whole, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that, yeah.
Well, it's just the very first thing it fixes is just that whole, that difference between between who I am and who I'm supposed to be. It starts realigning your brain, and it's beautiful, and it works really well. The next thing, of course, is like pheromones, and that's a little bit jarring for yourself.
Like how? What do you mean, pheromones?
How you smell, your base scent, what you smell like.
Okay.
Trans girls don't smell like dudes. They do not.
No.
So about 6 weeks into maybe 2 months or so, like my wife was like, she's like, oh my God, you stink. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, your base scent, it changed. I'm like, oh yeah, I knew that was going to happen. I'm like, is it bad? She's like, no, it's just really strong because it's teenage-ish, how teenage boys, they smell like funk perpetually. It goes away eventually, mostly.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then for what was really confusing was for a long time, for like the next month or so afterwards, I smell, I'm like, girl, my brain's going girl, and and then I'm like, oh wait, that's me. So a little bit for a little while. But yeah, and that's like two of the big things that start. And then you're always looking in the mirror for little changes in your face. Something that, because it reshuffles all the fat in your face and your body to boot. So that takes time, though. That takes literally years.
Yeah.
Grow your hair out. And then at some point, like, for example, it lessens body hair. It's great. So, I imagine like trans men were probably like, I'm getting hairy or something like that,
Yeah.
Or whatever else it is, or their voice drops and they're like so proud of it. Like my son, my 17-year-old, speaks in the deepest voice he can possibly find. I'm not kidding. So like half the time, I'll walk in and he goes, hey, Mom, or something like that, and it's just, that really hurt. Let's not do that again.
Yeah, let's not. Be careful with your voice.
It's okay. I don't.
No more Dr. Clawing.
I will try not to. Well, Dr. Clawing is actually easier because that's not actually pushing.
Oh, yeah.
It's not
Good point.
That's not a real thing. Well, not a real push on the voice box. But yeah, so he'll try and use like the most, the deepest voice you can find, and it's crazy. But yeah, and the kids were really good about it. I tried to explain it to him. We watch Doctor Who we used to watch Doctor Who all the time. So I was like, you know how the Doctor regenerates and he comes back and he looks like a different person, different mannerisms, sounds different.
Yeah.
But he's the same core person, right? And they're like, like exact same thing. Exact same thing.
Wow. Thank you for that perspective. I'm going to put that in my notes.
Please do. So, this last season when the Doctor did regenerate into a woman, I was like, yes, thank you. Finally. So, but there are things there are differences on either side of the, I guess, gender norms, gender expectations that always catch you by surprise. I apparently lost my ability to change light bulbs in my car or headlights in my car or something. I'm not kidding. I was at an Air Force base and my headlight had blown out. So I went to go change it out. And this happens like every 6 months on my Prius. So I really don't, I've gotten used to doing it. But 2 airmen come out and they're like, ma'am, can we help you with your car? I'm like, no, really, I got this. And they're like, are you sure? I'm like, I'm just putting in the headlight. Well, that's kind of tough. That could really bruise. I'm like, you know what? If you really want to help, go for it. At a certain point, you just give into it a little bit. You want to help. So, well, it's like doors. I always feel like I'm running for them. I always nowadays feel like I'm running. And I often wonder, if you're trans, sometimes I imagine there's a lot of introspection where you sit there and go, I wonder if I was like this when I was trying to play a part. And like holding doors, for example, it's great. It's fantastic. When I'm like 30 feet away, I feel like I have to jog. When you're in heels, it's not so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm sure you've heard all of this before.
Well, no. Oh, you're my third interview, so.
Wow.
Also, if you're going to say something somebody else has said, all you're doing is reaffirming that it's a common trope and central to the trans experience. And I mean,
yeah,
I'm actually kind of really looking for tropes, the sort of things that'll resonate, that trans people will look at this cartoon and say, oh, yeah, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I get that a lot. I
got to drop a reference to the 3 H's kind of thing for the dudes, but yeah.
It makes sense. It actually does make sense. Yeah, for me, it just felt like being able to finally think clearly. It felt great. Dealing with emotions, it's like seeing in black and white your whole life and then now seeing in color, and it's phenomenal, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. And
please elaborate on that.
It's just everything's stronger. I don't know how else to explain that. And I know part of it, all right, scientifically, part of it's testosterone's emotion inhibitor. It also why guys feel invincible a lot of the times, rightly or wrongly. Yeah, that's one of the side effects of,
actually, no, I'm sorry, please continue.
No, that comes later. That actually does come later, unfortunately.
Oh, thank you for clarifying
that. Je vous en prie, monsieur. But yeah, no, it's a side effect of that. So, I mean, my friend Jackie asked the same thing. She's like, do you feel invincible when you go out to the car at night? I'm like, no, I don't actually. I'm like, that disappeared. The whole thing of, sleeping on random doorsteps in Shanghai, that's gone. I feel the fear a lot more, but I feel everything a lot more, if that makes any sense.
It does.
It's not necessarily that guys don't feel it any less. It's just that they've got a touch of a blocker, if you will.
No, actually, the conversation before this was an individual who's going through a tea treatment, and they said, they feel things a lot less.
Yeah.
Or like their emotions aren't as overwhelming to them anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, try going through puberty at 40. It sucks.
Yeah. Well, I say that. No, I shouldn't say it like that. The connotation of that tone was like, I hear you, but no, I'm talking from a place of cis privilege, so I can't really say that. I mean, I'm at 40.
Regardless, experience at least half of this equation at one point or another. So, yeah, you can absolutely say that. In my opinion.
I mean, like, there's a famous. When you get to be our age, we kind of go through other changes as well, but they're not as drastic as puberty-like changes.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Why did I wake up with pains today? I didn't do anything, kind of thing.
Yeah, that happens. I get bad arthritis in my left ankle. I broke my 6. It's okay. I was being dumb. Okay, I got to tell you the story anyways.
Please.
So, I was back in Monterey for refresher language training, and I thought I'd spend the day reading a book and drinking a beer.
When was this again?
1996.
Please continue.
Okay. So I spent the day drinking and reading, and my friends came out, and then we started just drinking, and I brought my backpack and my book and everything with me. So, end of the night, we want to go, we're a bouncer helps us out the door because we're all very inebriated. And then I realized I left my backpack there, and I don't want to wait till the next day to go get it. So I try to get back in, bouncer says no. some drunk brain decided, I'll just climb over the back wall.
Oh.
So, yeah, it's like 15 feet high or so. So I climbed up the wall. It's a parking lot behind the bar. Climbed over the wall, got in, got my backpack. Now, if I'd been sober or moderately thinking at all, I would have just walked out the front door. No, I decided I was going to go jump back over the wall, right? Yeah. Well, I jumped off the wall and bounced off a VW bug, snapped my ankle.
Oh.
So I didn't want to report it because I was pretty intoxicated at that point. So I took a lot of Tylenol during the day and drank heavily at night for 6 weeks until it healed. But even now, when I get tired, I limp a little bit.
Yeah.
And the weather makes it hurt. So there you go.
Does it like crack at night when you're just sitting around with your family? What?
It's not that bad.
Okay.
It just hurts a lot when weather shifts.
Okay.
That's really
Never
about
mind.
it. And then when I get tired of it,
Yeah.
I've got floating bone fragments still.
Oh,
it's not
God.
bad.
No, never mind. Oof. Sorry.
Yeah, well, funny story. 10 years later, I was at aircrew school. I wanted to go fly in P3s and EP3s, same thing. So day 2 there, I managed to rip all the ligaments in my left ankle, which was the same ankle I'd snapped.
Oh.
Yeah, I forgot my water bottle. Didn't want to be the girl that forgot her water bottle. And yeah, it was beautiful. It was like super big and bruised all the way up the leg. Fortunately, I've got this little tan going on, and that made it so they didn't notice it at medical. But the next day, they're like, "Hey, we're going to go run," and I took like 2 steps and had to fall out.
Oh.
So I had to go see the flight doc. But yeah, so I spent a little extra time at aircrew school that I didn't want to, but in the end, it was worth it.
Anyway, everybody, you sound perfect now.
Okay, well, thanks. This might be the first time anybody has ever said that.
Oh. Self-deprecating humor.
Yeah, it's my go-to.
I know, it's hard to get away from.
Well, you got to play to your strengths. It's one of those things.
You know what? I changed things up a bit once. I started making like confidence jokes instead.
Really?
Yeah, or like here's a new one for you to use, and I recommend it. Or like if you're like moving around somebody, and you say, oh, pardon me, and they say, oh, you're fine, and you can say, well, I'm super fine, but that doesn't excuse my actions.
I like it. I'm gonna give that a go.
Or someone says, that was amazing, and you say, yes, it was. I mean, thank you. Please use that because like confidence jokes, I think, are the new way to go. And
is it?
Yeah. Also, I found one way for people to grow confidence is just to act 10% more confident than you are, just that smidge. And
it's
people
11 or 12, right?
Huh? What's that?
Not 11 or 12%.
I wouldn't recommend 12.
Okay.
Maybe vary between 8 and 11.5, but just be a little more confident, like just a smidge, and then bit by bit, people tend to react to you in a certain way, and that makes you seem more confident. Because when you look at people objectively, like you look at the beautiful people of the world, the people who are famous or rich or something like that, and you're like, they're just another a-hole like anybody else. They just knew how to trick people.
It's funny you say that.
Do go on. I mean, yes, it is funny because I'm a funny man.
Well, no,
see?
Well, you are a funny man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You're always welcome. But no, it's that's very much a Navy thing. I mean, you get promoted into a new position, or I should say, a military thing, and maybe that's just echoes of what actual real life is. Someday I got to find out what that real life thing is like. But it's you you play a role for a little bit, even if you don't know what you're doing, you'll stumble through it and eventually you will get it. It's one of those things. Sometimes you have to pretend to be something to get to where you need to be. I did that for like 30 years. I'm good.
We hit a big theme of your story right there. Thank you. Brought it all the way around.
Sure did.
All right, let's see. Oh, questions. Let's see. Number 6. Who was most supportive of you in your journey?
My sister.
Oh?
Yeah, my sister.
That's just it, full stop? Do you have any elaborations or, like, anecdotes?
Oh, well, this whole thing started of all frickin' thing. This was all kicked off by the death of a friend shortly after I got out of the military. Mm-hmm. I'd been suppressing this since I was 22. And if that sounds oddly specific, I mean, like seriously trying to suppress and forget. I'd learned about Thailand and about what they could do. And I thought, that would be perfect. That's a way for me to change everything and be who I am. And I was like, but the price is way too high. I'd lose everyone, and I'd have to change my name. I'd have to go away from everybody else. And I can't do that. So I pushed it as far down as I could.
I'm sorry.
That doesn't work very well, by the way. It doesn't work well at all.
No, that's what they say. Yeah.
Yeah. So 20 years later, I'm in Texas. My family's already moved to Georgia. And a good friend of mine, he'd retired from the Navy a few years prior, and he'd had cancer before, but it was in remission. And when it came back this time, the only person he told was his wife, not even his kids. So I found out he died, and it ripped a hole in me. It ripped a hole in me. I cried for 3 days straight. And the only thing that brought me comfort was crying and, well, I guess now it would be my clothing, but at the time wearing women's clothing. And then afterwards I was like, why is this my response? Trigger something in me. Why did that make me feel better? Yeah. It's oddly specific. And it's always been like that over the years. It's like a compulsion almost. It's like it's almost like your subconscious was trying to get you to remember something. Oh, wait, it was. Anyways, the hell out of it. And came up with an answer, found a word. I'd finally figured out what transgender was. And I was like, oh my God, I think this is me. And my next thought was, how the hell am I going to tell my wife? I mean, we've been married, 16 years at that point? 15 years, somewhere in there. So months later, I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do. I know that there are things called gender therapists, and HRT is a real deal. And it's like having the cure to cancer, but knowing you can't take it. That's you're stuck. And because at this point, I'm in my 40s, retired Navy chief, and I've got two sons, and trying to support my family, and I can't go around being a freak, right? That was my thought at the time. No, it's not true. It's not true that we're freaks, just at the time.
You can say that, of course, at the time. This is genuinely what you were thinking.
Yeah. Because, I mean, there's an answer, and it's a fix, and it's going to fix you, and it's going to make everything better, and I can't do it. Because much like at 22, that I'm going to lose everything. So we're watching the Jenner special at one point, and I don't really want to watch this because it's hitting too close to home.
The Jenner special?
No, the Caitlyn Jenner special.
Oh, the Jenner special. Got it.
Yeah, I'm old. Sorry.
No, I'm 4 years younger than you.
Well, I was drinking. You were in high school. Okay, it's not really true, but it's close.
Okay, you're as old as my wife.
There you go. See?
There you go.
But
no, we're from similar times. I don't care about the 80s very much, is what I'll say.
I don't know. Karate Kid was pretty good.
It was.
And I always wish I could do tricks on skateboards, but I don't have that kind of coordination. I never did.
Right.
It's gotten worse, actually, since the body's rebalanced itself.
Oh.
Well, yeah, everything shifts. I mean, you got to get used to how your body reacts now. Also, my wife is stronger physically than I am. We did arm wrestling like last year before. Mm-hmm. And because my testosterone's zeroed out. Hers is not. So, and she throws 90-pound pit bulls around.
Oh, you have pit bulls?
We have a pit bull, actually, yeah.
Oh, us too.
Yeah, they're great dogs.
Yeah.
They're just, if anything, I think they think they're lap dogs. That's my only complaint. They're really heavy and really dense, and they want to be lap dogs. So.
I'm lucky I have a mix then, but yeah.
Yeah. But we're watching this special, and she goes, they'd asked, she'd watched Jenner's responses to one of these questions, and she laughingly, said, "You've never felt like that, have you?" And that whole tone of voice, like, of course you haven't. And unbidden, I said, yeah, every day. Do you want to talk about a trans bomb? Right there. At that point, it was like, let's go have a conference outside. Only it wasn't really that nice. It was like outside now would be probably closer to the spirit of things. Yeah.
Are you still with her?
We're still married.
Okay.
She had a stroke last year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I mean, she needs medical care, and while she doesn't really want me around, if I can do this to provide it, then it's okay. And I have like more insurance than I can shake a stick at, or whatever the old person term is. I think that's right, actually. So,
what do you see in your future, if I may ask?
Probably divorce. She's not. The marriages continue to work usually if like your wife has some bisexual tendencies in some way, shape, or form. She does not at all, and never has. And I've known this, so wanting to transition was knowing that I probably just can say goodbye to my marriage.
Well, I know it's no comfort to hear, but everybody changes over the course of their life, and
it's true.
Nobody is the same person they were when they got married.
Oh, I beg to differ. I'm just kidding.
You get what I'm saying, though. I mean, there's a reason. Like, divorce is a sad thing, but it's an important and ultimately good thing in the majority of cases. So,
I'm not angry at her. I do want her to be happy. I don't know how to. At some point, I just have to pull the trigger, I guess. I don't. Yeah. I'll figure it out.
You will. I mean, you figured out how to take charge of your life 4 years ago. So
yeah, well, that was point of desperation kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
It sounds like you've become a wiser person, and
Well, you take enough beatings, and eventually you get good enough to avoid the stick a little bit. So, yeah. So, yeah, no, it was rough. I mean, doing it in Georgia, transitioning openly in Georgia, because I work as a systems administrator, or used to work as a systems administrator. And, I have to, in order to work in some of the areas I do, I had to do this all openly. There's no, hey, let's do this covertly and, move somewhere else. There's no moving somewhere else. So everyone you work with is watching you change. And as you change, how they react to you changes as well. It's like the first day I realized that I had to start wearing bras. I came home and my wife was like, "Did you wear that shirt today?" I'm like, "Yeah," because I'm like, "Yeah, I wore this shirt. I wear this shirt, at least once a week, something like that." And she's like, "You can't ever do that again." I'm like, "Why not?" She's like, "Go look in the mirror." And I'm like, "Oh, wow. I am really nipping out. This is great. Good job." Yeah. So from then on, it was bras of some sort, little things like that. Did I tell you about the first dance? Yeah, I did. I believe I did. The baby blues bit. It was funny though. Okay. So I'm out with friends doing karaoke in Warner Robins. Uh-huh. They're all out smoking. I'm bag watch because I don't want somebody to take their purses. Not that anybody's really going to. So in the middle of this song, this tall dude walks over and goes, "Hey, do you want to dance?" And I'm like,
"Oh, right.
No, I'm good." Yeah, now do you remember?
Yeah, okay. I remember.
Yeah, and it's just things are different, how people react to you.
Could you finish could you finish the anecdote for the eventual podcast?
I absolutely can.
Thank you.
He asked, "Do you want to dance?" And I said, no. And then he asked again, "Do you want to dance?" Like I'd misheard him. And I was about to say no again, and I thought, I know what it's like to be turned down, to be shot down when you ask somebody to dance or whatever. And I thought, here's my chance to, I feel bad. Let me do something good, right? So I said, sure. What harm's going to come from a little dance? That's all we're doing. So I go out on the floor. We start dancing. For starters, everything's in reverse a little bit. I didn't know where to put my hands, and I'm pretty sure at one point I really was leading. It's horrible. Fortunately, he was drunk enough, didn't notice. Middle of the song, he pulls his glasses off. He goes, "Do you like baby blues?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Because I've got baby blues." I'm like, "Oh God." And then he leans in. I'm like, I'm not sure what he wants here, so I'm just going to give him a hug, and then I'm just going to go back to my seat, and we'll call this good. So, yeah, it just got a little awkward initially. You're like, what do I do here? I think I know. Yes, that's what he wants to do. Now what do I do? But every now and then, I had friends that would take me out. They'd go, let's slow dance real quick. I'm like, damn it. And they're like, quit leading. I'm like, I'm trying. I'm just trying to relax. It's a relax. I can't. You have to unlearn, man, some bad habits. So it's fun, though. But I really do. One of the things I always regret now telling my wife ever was that, and I don't know if you've ever told your wife this, but she'll say, hey, that's heavy. And you're like, that's not heavy. I've said that a couple times during the course of our marriage. I know this. In fact, last time was when I bought this wonderful ladder. It's one of those ones, it's an aluminum one you can put in like multiple configurations.
Yes.
All right. So we're moving it around the house so we can clean out the gutters. And she's like, this is so heavy. I'm like, it's not heavy. Fast forward several years. I'm moving it around the house to help my youngest son clean out the gutters because, that's what youngest sons are for. And I'm like, oh my God, this thing is really heavy. I'm like, I feel so bad for ever saying that. For ever saying, that's not heavy. Yeah, it is.
Testosterone's a hell of a drug.
So I've heard. Some like it more than others.
Yeah.
We like the estrogen, also known on the street as titty skittles. So, I'm sorry.
Oh, right, because one of the people I spoke to last mentioned that they're like you put them under your tongue and.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you let them. That way it bypasses the liver.
Oh, nice.
A little more. Yeah, because your liver's going to get beaten up enough from HRT as it is, so you get a little more effect off of it. That and it actually tastes good, unlike most medications. Estrogen is sweet. Who knew?
Huh. I thought they just added stuff, but yeah, cool.
They probably do. I imagine testosterone tastes like sweat and beard. I don't know.
Thank you for joining us for Frankie the Podcast. For more on our Kickstarter and the animated short we're trying to produce, please visit www.frankieismagic.love. Our special guest was Endy Rose. Endy's interview continues in Part 2. This first batch of interviews were conducted by our producer and animation director, Sketch McQuinner. Intro music by Chicago-based musician Ronan Cohn. I'm Ronan Cohn. Spread the word and be your authentic self. Thanks so much.